when former foreign correspondent Cameron Bennett left his post at One News, a position that would occasionally take him to war zones. The journalist admits he didn't really know what he was doing. He launched a personal website, changed his job title, and in the end, he ended up taking an extended break. His new title was media consultant. He was to become a spin doctor, or media coach, but it never really worked out. I loosely settled on a term someone mentioned to me, media consultancy. Then I realized I had no idea what that meant, he says. 8 years later, over those years, not a lot has changed. He's still more or less the same guy who presented the Sunday program, but he's lost the flak jacket. Now, instead of reporting on foreign politics, Bennett talks about topics such as legalizing marijuana. Some things change, but some things don't change. Telling stories remains the same. It's still a challenge, the veteran journalist says. He's been doing this for more than 30 years. His latest project, In Hot Pursuit, is a two-part television documentary about legalizing cannabis and making it more available for medical purposes, a question all New Zealanders could soon vote on. The Green Party asked for, and was promised, a referendum on the full legalization of cannabis as part of its confidence and supply agreement. It was most likely to be held next year. Discussion about medicinal cannabis has also been a major focus, with 2 bills put forward to increase access. Green MP Chloe Swarbrick's bill failed, but a more has gained cross-party support. It will allow the terminally ill to use cannabis. Talking about pot isn't a passion of Bennett's, it's a story he was asked to report on. This story, in particular, took him to California, US, where the drug is legal, and closer to home he met New Zealanders struggling with hard-to-treat medical conditions. The documentary Bennett directed and narrated was for Attitude TV, a production company which focuses on empowering and enlightening stories about health and disabilities. In Hot Pursuit follows 3 people in search of medicinal cannabis, or as some refer to it as, the miracle plant. The trio all believe cannabis products could help ease their conditions or provide safe pain relief. One father wants it for his epileptic son, who often suffers more than 500 seizures a week. The government's bill, currently making its way through a select committee, will not let his son legally use cannabis-based medicine to ease or cure his condition. Tanya Black, a paraplegic woman, is prescribed a cocktail of medicine she says is potentially addictive. Cannabis products are a safer alternative, she believes, but getting them is difficult or illegal for them. And Bennett too. The argument about legal access to cannabis is not about the right to get stoned. In fact, when he started making this documentary, Bennett says he didn't care one bit about cannabis. And, for the record, he doesn't smoke it either. Although, more than 250,000 New Zealanders admit they do regularly smoke the illegal drug for a myriad of reasons. And, at some point. But, that's not what this documentary is about. Bennett says he started out without much concern, at all, around the legality of pot. I didn't have a strong opinion one way or the other, he says, but now he's happy to go on the record to support a loosening of cannabis laws. I'm not a cannabis man myself, he declares. I'm not a wowser, but it's illegal and I'm a journalist and I don't want to be smoking joints and then have people looking at me saying, that guy's doing a story about cannabis and smoking it. Should New Zealand legalize cannabis? Share your stories, photos and videos. Objectively, then, he reckons people in pain, not just people near death, should be allowed to use cannabis-based drugs. More widely, however, he doesn't see why it can't be used as a recreational drug, like alcohol. The public is already making choices and prohibition doesn't change that, in many ways, he says, in reference to those 250,000 people who admit to using cannabis despite the law. In Enbo, Bennett says he's just hoping people will watch his work. watch it to be educated, and with an open mind. He says, there's still a great amount of stigma attached to the word cannabis, he reckons. And while he hopes to educate people, and destigmatize cannabis, Bennett also hopes you watch because he rather enjoys employment. Although documentary making might not be as attention-grabbing as some of his previous work, such as going on undercover assignments in Zimbabwe, it's now his one focus. He does a lot of it. When we talk about In Pop Pursuit, Bennett is already working on another episode of Marau for TVNZ. He's also worked on the hard stuff with Nigel Latter. It's the freelancer life, he explains. It's either a feast or a famine. In Pop Pursuit screens at 11 a.m., July the 15th on TVNZ1 and is available on TVNZ On Demand, Sunday. Star Times promoted stories recommended by